What's up, everyone? Today is the 11th of March, 2024. My name is Derek, and in this video, we're going to be discussing the death of pro wrestler Virgil and how it connects to yesterday's news about the trade of Patriots quarterback Mac Jones to his hometown of Jacksonville, Florida. On February 28th last week, we learned about the death of WWE superstar Virgil at the age of 61. However, in the aftermath of Virgil's death, 11 years were added to his age, so he's actually 72. But what I want you to notice about Virgil is that his real name is Michael Jones. Yesterday, we learned that the Patriots have agreed to trade Mac Jones to the Jaguars, who play in Jacksonville, which is Mac Jones's hometown, where he even played high school football. But notice Mac Jones's real name is also Michael Jones. So in this video, we'll talk about the synchronicity and numerology that links these two stories to one another. And of course, we're also going to talk about this eclipse code and the state of Alabama. Mac Jones won a national championship for the Alabama Crimson Tide in the year 2021. And Alabama's state flag is a red X, which is a tribute to the two great American total solar eclipses, which complete an X over the United States this year. And in the last part of this video, I'm going to talk about this connection with the Alabama state flag to the eclipses that are about to occur and Mac Jones's 2021 championship. Very interesting stuff here, so let's get into this. First, we begin with the death of Virgil. Now, as you'll see, Virgil's birthday is listed as April 7th of 1951. However, when news of his death first broke, his birthday was shown everywhere on the internet that I could find as June 13th, 62. And we have good reason to believe that this 1951 date is more accurate. If you go back in the early 90s and look at Virgil, he certainly looks closer to 40 than 30, but what is it with this birthday? Why was this date listed for so many years? This is the riddle that we will be unpacking in today's video. With his 1962 birthday, the incorrect one, this would have put Virgil at an age of 61 years old. 61, a number I've been talking about frequently over the past year. Skull and crossbones in the reduction form of Gematria sums to 61. And if you're wondering how we turn letters into numbers, we're simply looking at the base 4 methods of Gematria. Every letter assigned a number 1 through 26 originally, based on its position. The alphabetic order can either be reversed or reduced, where each double-digit number drops down to a single digit, also called Pythagorean. And in that Pythagorean method, skull and crossbones equals 61. 61 is also the reverse gematria of both Jesus and cross. And we see this most commonly with black celebrities. Notice how the name Virgil is a perfect match in base gematria with the name Christ. 7785 ordinal, 41 and 40 in reduction. But the big number with the death of Jesus is 74. As in the alphabetic order, Jesus, killing, cross, Messiah, gospel, all 74. February 28th, which is the date that is listed for Virgil's passing, was a date with primary numerology of 74. And if his original birth date, the 1962 date, was correct, he would have also been 740 months old, in addition to being 61. So both of these numbers connecting to the gematria of Jesus. The number 74 is also the reduction value of Skull and Bones Society. And indeed, Skull and Bones, the secret society headquartered at Yale University, has everything to do with this riddle once again. Skull and Bones Society also yields a very interesting number in reverse. So not only do we get this 74, but also notice the 295 in the reverse alphabetic order. This is an interesting number for this story. In the Latin method of Gematria, which uses the classical Latin alphabet and puts the more modern English characters at the end of this cipher, notice how colon cancer, which is the disease that reportedly claimed his life, also equals 295. In the reverse alphabetic order, Michael Virgil Jones also sums to 295, just like colon cancer in Latin. Michael Virgil Jones also equals 106. Notice how these same numbers, 295 and 106, are found in the gematria of the numbers 223 and 322. Virgil even dead 106 days before the June 13th birthday. And this is the riddle we've been talking about for most of the last 12 months. In October of 2023, Skull and Bones, or Order 322, turned 322 years old, and in ordinal, Skull and Crossbones equals 223. So it's clear to see how this riddle could be connected to celebrity's death. Well, check out Virgil's age with his incorrect birthday. He would have been exactly 3,220 weeks old when he died. But this age is significant for another reason. 3,220 weeks is also exactly 825 sidereal months. Now, a sidereal month measures the time it takes for the moon to orbit the Earth. This is about 27.3 days. It's a couple days shorter than a lunar phase, which measures new moon to new moon. And in Latin gematria, the name Virgil equals 825, matching what would have been his exact lunar age. But to make that even more intriguing is that Virgil died 8,205 days after the 9/11 attacks. Now you may be thinking, wait a minute, what does 9/11 have to do with the death of a pro wrestler? Well, during the 9/11 attacks, the president in office was George W. Bush, who was born in New Haven while his father was attending Yale. And George Bush also graduated Yale as a member of Skull and Bones. Exactly 11 years before the 9/11 attacks, George W. Bush's father, George H.W. Bush, made his famous New World Order speech. That was on September 11th in 1990. And Virgil, when he joined WCW, became one of the front faces of the New World Order stable, the black and white group with Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, you know all those guys. And there he was, a proud member of the NWO. Now, in the alphabetic order, the name George W. Bush sums to 130, which is the same as Skull and Bones when you use the ampersand. Virgil died 130 days before George Bush's birthday. 130 also human sacrifice in ordinal. 130. In reverse, human sacrifice sums to 248. Well, Virgil, with his fake birthday, would have been exactly 2,048 weeks old on the date of the 9/11 attacks. So the number 322 is stamped on this Skull and Bones code for a very important reason, and this does have to do with eclipses. Now, the bones crossed under the skull, a lot like the X creating a cross over the United States. But the number 223 is also very important for this eclipse code, as eclipses from the same Saros are separated by 223 lunar phases. So when Skull and Bones and Yale University turned 322 years old, that anniversary was the 282nd day of the year, October 9th. Again, the anniversary for Yale University. October 9th is the 282nd day of the year, and Virgil died on 28/2, the 28th of February. And with his fake birthday, notice how the digits 254 were in his age. Well, September 11th was the 254th day of the year. In the alphabetic order, total solar eclipse sums to 202. In the reverse alphabetic order, Skull and Bones also sums to 202. Virgil died 20 weeks and 2 days after Yale's special anniversary. His death is also a span of 41 days before the next Great American Eclipse on April 8th. And 41 is Skull and Bones in reduction. Furthermore, Virgil equals 41, and his death fell 41 days after the birthday of the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Ted DiBiase was the wrestler that Virgil accompanied to the ring for many years, and then Virgil eventually turned on him and had a big match at SummerSlam. If you include the end date, he died 42 days after Ted DiBiase's birthday. Well, in reduction, the name Ted DiBiase sums to 42. Also, I mentioned how his real name is Michael Jones. Well, notice how the name Michael Jones sums to 861. Now, this might be a little more obscure for the newcomers to the channel, but 861 is a triangular number. So if you add every number 1 through 41, you get this sum. And I just thought that was interesting because Virgil equals 41. Dead 41 days before the eclipse and 41 days after Ted DiBiase's birthday. This all comes together way too well, and it only makes sense that, well, it turns out that his birthday was wrong, and instead we get this April 7th date. So I'm not going to bother decoding this one, at least not at the moment. Instead, what I want to talk about is how the death of Michael Jones is connected to this riddle with Michael, or Mac Jones, being traded from New England to the Jaguars. Now, Mac Jones was thought to be the replacement for Tom Brady, who obviously was, the GOAT. He won 7 Super Bowls, and that turned out not to be the case. Now, remember, New England represents Connecticut, and Connecticut is where Yale University is. Tom Brady then went to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have the skull and crossbones Jolly Roger on their logo. So this is part of an ongoing long-term thing that we've been looking at. But what's so interesting is that in my very last video, Superstream 69 from a couple weeks ago, I may address why it's been so long at the end of the video, but first of all, notice how in this video I did a decode on the death of Ewan Macintosh, a British actor from the UK's version of The Office. Back in 2021, Mac Jones's first season, I made this post observing a fascinating synchronicity with Mac Jones and the Macintosh computer. Now, this was all synced up to the shooting death of rapper Young Dolph. So I theorized that we may see the death of another famous rapper soon, based on this story and the number 338. Now, Mac Jones was born in the year 1998. 1998 is the same year that the Macintosh computer changed its name to just Mac, like Mac Jones. Mac Jones was born 5,338 days after the Macintosh computer was released in 1984. And I pointed this out because young Dolph, who just died right before this game, was born 5,338 months exactly before the Jesuit order, and then died 338 days after the eclipse over Argentina, home to the first Jesuit pope. And this 338 number, this came up again in this week's stories. Mac Jones was traded yesterday, which was 338 days after Virgil's birthday, the other Michael Jones, using his April 7th birthday. And when you write out the names Ewan Macintosh and Mac Jones, you get a Gematria value of 338. And when Mac Jones was traded, Ewan Macintosh would have been 18,338 days old. So how strange that I can do this post 3 years ago almost, 2.5 years, I guess, talking about this number 338. And now we get another decode, and this number's popping up again. Now, the reason I think this is connected is because this is also a span of 77 days after Ewan Macintosh's birthday. Again, this the actor who just died last month. Well, 77 is the ordinal value of both Jaguars and Virgil. Interesting. Now, 338 and the eclipse code is something I also observed recently because if you look at the first Great American Eclipse from 2017 and go to the Super Bowl, you get a span of exactly 338 weeks. Just to get carried away for a second, notice how 338 equals 342. Well, when Mac Jones was traded, it was 342 weeks after that eclipse. But moving on. This is all connected to the number 1331, which is my favorite number. Down in the description below, you'll find a link to this post on 1331 and the eclipse code. Nothing is more solid and concrete in Gematria than the 1331 eclipse code. I've done many videos explaining how this coding continues. Well, think about the date that Mac Jones was traded. 10-3 or 3-10. With the 0 ignored, that's like 13 and 31. Jaguars, Michael McCorkle, Mac Jones, both 103 in Gematria. Last month, Ewan Macintosh died 310 days before his birthday. Now Mac Jones traded on 310. The name Macintosh sums to 331. And the number 331, in turn, sums to 1331, just like 133. Remember, you merged the 1331. Sorry, the 133 and 331, you get the 1331. Both numbers have this Gematria. It's amazing. Well, one day before his trade, Mac Jones turned 1,331 weeks old. And we've been talking about the Macintosh computer. Well, the Macintosh was created and sold by Steve Jobs, right? Well, when Steve Jobs died, Mac Jones was 13 years and 31 days old. Now, this 1331 eclipse, this happened on November 30th. And notice how November 30th, this is the only date in Latin Gematria that sums to 1331. And that was the date of the 1331 eclipse, which also sums to 1331. November 30th, however, is the date that the Jacksonville Jaguars were founded. Again, Mac Jones traded to Jacksonville, which is the city he grew up in and played his high school football in. Notice how Mac Jones has primary birth numerology of 131, a lot like 1331. And his full name with his nickname also sums to 131. now he'll be playing for the Jaguars, backing up Trevor Lawrence. And notice how he was born 1 year and 31 days, or 13 months and 1 day before Trevor Lawrence. Mac Jones played his college football at Alabama. Notice how Alabama equals 13 and 31, while Alabama state flag equals 103 and 310. Back in 1895, Alabama adopted its plain red X, the St. Andrew's Cross, as its state flag. That happened on a date with 131 numerology. Now, if you add the two names of the new Jaguars quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones, you get a sum of 666. And I point this out because 666 plus 666 is just one off of this 1331 code. Now, the first Macintosh computer was originally sold. Well, maybe it wasn't this one. Maybe it was the rebranded version. But the first ever Macintosh was sold for $666.66. Computer and internet both with Sumerian gematria of 666. When actor Ewan McIntosh died on February 19th, Mac Jones had 3 9s in his age, which of course is the upside down 666. Mac Jones was born 1 day after the United States turned 2,666 months old. And his birthday of September 5th, or 9/5, that's the reduction gematria of 666. .666 sums to 294 in ordinal. So does 603 score and 6 with the ampersand. Well, Mac Jones got traded exactly 2,094 weeks after Apple's big Macintosh ad during the Super Bowl in 1984. If you add 6 plus 6 plus 6, you get a sum of 18. Whereas Mac Jones's birth year, 1998, that's the third multiple of 666. This brings us back to Virgil, whose full name sums to both 180 and 1998. Jones got traded 180 days before his birthday, which stood out because he was born 180 lunar phases after the first Macintosh came out. And the name Jones equals 18, like 3 6s. .666 sums to 211 in reverse. Michael McCorkle Mac Jones, 211 ordinal. But notice how his name also sums to 616 in standard English gematria. This cipher, just like Latin or the ancient Hebrew and Greek charts, but uses the current 26-letter alphabetic order instead. And a lot of people actually believe that 616 is the true number of the beast. This dates back to the early aughts with new uncovered texts. So much 666 coding with this Mac Jones fella. But before I end this video, I just want to dive a little bit deeper into Mac Jones's run at Alabama, where he won the 21 national championship. So once again, this Alabama state flag, this is called St. Andrew's Cross, the Red Cross, as we see here. And once again, don't fool yourself. This is completely connected to the two Great American total solar eclipses, stamping an X over the United States. Just a little bit more about how Yale is connected with these eclipses. If you look at Yale's 322nd anniversary on October 9th last year, notice how that date was exactly 82 sidereal months after the first eclipse. Well, the second eclipse is 82 synodic months, or lunar phases, after the first eclipse. And when you write out 82 in the language of Gematria, this is the first number to have Gematria of 666. Now, if you take the date of the first eclipse, 8/21 of 2017, and you add a span of 6 years, 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days, you get to the second eclipse, April 8th, 2024. And if I'm not mistaken, this 346 may also be coded in here. I think if you take out Mac Jones, yeah. Michael McCorkle Jones, his full legal name, sums to 346, which is the exact number of weeks between the two Great American Eclipses. Alabama officially adopted its state flag on February 16th of 1895, measuring from that date to the first Great American Eclipse, 44,747 days. Well, this is like a double 47. February 16th is the 47th day of the year. This red cross is named after Saint Andrew, whose name equals 47. And in the reduction form of Gematria, total eclipse equals 47. The 2017 eclipse, as well as the 2024 eclipse, both dubbed the Great American Eclipse. Notice how in Gematria, Great American Eclipse sums to 122. So does Alabama State Flag, 122. And if you measure to this same date, the first Great American Eclipse, you get 122 years and 186 days. Well, 186 is the ordinal value of Andrew the Apostle, which, of course, is the name of Saint Andrew. Andrew the Apostle. In Sumerian Gematria, Alabama equals 186. Sumerian, a simple cipher based on ordinal, every letter simply multiplied by 6, the first perfect number, and the number most closely associated with time. But what about the second eclipse? Well, for this, we have to look at Alabama's date of admission to the Union. December 14th, 1819. Now, this is a really interesting date. We'll talk about it more in a second, but first, notice how the second eclipse falls 117 days after Alabama's anniversary. The United States of America and state of Alabama both equal 117. Also, they share a 261. But notice how in Latin Gematria, state of Alabama equals 408, just like April 8th, the date of that second eclipse. The phrase total solar eclipse sums to 202, which with the zero dropped is 22. Alabama was the 22nd state admitted to the Union. Now this brings us to the coronavirus pandemic, which emerged in the year 2020. And, of course, in ordinal, coronavirus pandemic equals 220, just like orthocoronavirinae, which is what's allegedly caused the virus. And then we had Donald John Trump, 220, fast-tracking the vaccine through Operation Warp Speed, 220. Now, I point this out because the first college football season after the coronavirus pandemic was won by Mac Jones, where he won the NCAA championship in January of 21. The words eclipse and corona both equal 33. Well, when you write out the number 33, you get Gematria of 895 Latin and 1515 in standard gematria. Well, notice how the Alabama state flag was adopted in the year 1895, which has the 895. And if you measure from that date to the first Great American Eclipse, you get 1515 lunar phases. 33, 1515 in standard gematria. So the number 33 is synonymous with 666 in gematria, and all you have to do is write out 33 to see why. Well, Alabama became a state 2,266 weeks and 6 days after the United States declared its independence, so you get a 666 there. And then if you measure to the second eclipse, you get another 666, 10,660 weeks and 6 days. Great American Eclipse has matching gematria with number of the beast, 724. Don't forget, 724 is also the Brotherhood of Death in Latin gematria. The Brotherhood of Death, the nickname for Skull and Bones Society. When you write out the number 666, you get this ordinal gematria of 201. And people who have been following my work for a while, as well as some other gematria channels, know that Event 201 was the big rehearsal that media and big science had prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, where they literally simulated a coronavirus outbreak. Now, the number 201 is also the reverse value of eclipse code and eclipse ritual. On December 14th of 2020, the FDA announced its first ever COVID vaccine approval. And on December 14th of 2020, we had a total solar eclipse. If I can just pull this up quickly. Of course, it's never quick. Solar eclipse of December 14th, 2020. Now, this eclipse here, December 14th of 2020, this was the exact halfway point between the two Great American Eclipses. 173 weeks after the first, 173 weeks before the second. Now, December 14th of 2020 was exactly 201 years after the state of Alabama was admitted to the Union in 1819. And this eclipse peaked over the country of Argentina. See that? Greatest eclipse directly over the middle of Argentina. And Argentina is home to Pope Francis, the first bishop of Rome to ever have been a member of the Jesuit order. Now, Pope Francis lives at dorm 201 of the Domus Sanctae Marthae. Notice how the Jesuit order, its founders Ignatius of Loyola and Francis Xavier both sum to 201. Francis's real name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, sums to 201. So does Domus Sanctae Marthae. Mac Jones was born 201 days after the Alabama flag's anniversary. It was also 103 years later. And we mentioned this earlier. His full name equals 103, just like Great American Eclipse, Alabama state flag, and 666. And as far as this 201, well, it was the year 21 when Mac Jones won the championship. Now, if you look at the eclipse calendar, you'll discover that eclipses always occur 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases after the last one. And when you write out the digits 1, 5, 6, it sums to 1214, which is Alabama's anniversary. and the date of the 2020 eclipse. So Alabama became a state in 1819. Well, the name Mac Jones equals 819. Mac Jones also has matching gematria with both Andrews Cross and Alabama. 158. And when he was traded yesterday, it was 11,058 days after the Jaguars were founded. Today is a span of exactly 1,580 weeks after the Jaguars were founded. United States of America equals the 158th prime number, 929. Alabama got its flag 929 lunations after it was admitted to the Union. So Mac wins the championship in 2021. Well, notice how the phrase personal computer equals 221. And again, Mac, born the same year that the Macintosh shortened its name to the Mac. So let's talk about how Steve Jobs is connected to this, numerically. Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple, along with another Steve Wozniak. Steve Jobs died rather unexpectedly back in 2011. When Alabama got its state flag, it was exactly 1,005 sidereal months after the state was admitted to the Union. Well, 1,005 is just like the digits in the date Steve Jobs died, October 5th, or 1005. He died in the year 2011. Personal computer equals 211. Remember, Michael McCorkle, Mac Jones, also giving us this 211. Intriguingly, computer also equals 105, like his 10/5 death date. But all of this is connected to the number of the beast. He died in 2011, 666, 211. And he died on 10/5, which reduces to 15. And the 15th prime number is 47, like how beast equals 47. 211, the 47th prime number. So all of these numbers are connected in this chain, so to speak. Also, 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. Alabama adopting its state flag on 216. Using the Latin ordinal method, which drops the Latin cipher to an ordinal base, you'll notice that Michael McCorkle Jones sums to 198. Jacksonville, Florida was sums to 198 in ordinal. And Mac Jones was born there in the year 1998. 198 is also the Latin value of both Apple Inc. and beast. So 1998, the third multiple of 666. Well, notice how Mac Jones won the national championship 9 years and 98 days, or a span of 9 years, 99 days after Steve Jobs died. We call 666 the number of the beast. And number of the beast has gematria of both 174 and 1,074. Well, Mac Jones was born 1,740 days after the Jacksonville Jaguars were founded. Again, born in the same city. The number 666 is 111 times 6. Steve Jobs died 10,116 days after the Macintosh went on sale. And then Alabama won the championship 111 months and 6 days later. Andrew the Apostle, the namesake for the cross on Alabama's flag, sums to 1116. Alabama's date of admission falls a span of 116 days after August 21st and 116 days before April 8th. Again, those the dates of the two great American eclipses. Alabama's flag was also 116 years old when Steve Jobs died. But finally, to wrap this video up, I want to talk about the number 128, as this was the number stamped on the original Macintosh computer from 1984. Notice how St. Andrew sums to 128 in ordinal gematria. The Macintosh 128K, first one on sale, on a date with numerology of 128, and with capital letters, its manufacturer, Apple Inc., equals 128. Mac Jones was born 1,280 lunar phases after Alabama got its state flag. He won the national championship for Alabama 128 days after his birthday. And when he got traded yesterday, it was 1 month, 28 days after the anniversary of that game. I pointed out the Latin gematria of 156 earlier. We have Alabama's admission date here. But also notice how 156 equals 128. 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases, 128, separating each eclipse. Well, in satanic gematria, this phrase sums to 1100. And the Macintosh released exactly 1100 lunar phases after Alabama's state flag. And remember, the number 128 was prevalent in the death of Ewan Macintosh, whose name sums to 128-1, which is a lot like 128K. Macintosh starred on the UK's Office, which only aired for 128 weeks. The name Ewan Macintosh equals 1031, and the Macintosh 128 came out 10 years, 31 days after Ewan Macintosh was born. This is also 10 years and 30 days. And notice how the name of the Saint Andrew equals 1030 in Latin. So a lot to unpack here. Certainly, this was more than I expected to do when I saw that Mac Jones got traded. But when you look back at history and really see how, since the beginning of the United States, they've been well aware of these two eclipses that are occurring. And, you know, there's been a lot of changes over the past several years. I mean, ever since Trump got in office, but especially with Biden, we've seen record inflation. You know, I don't want to fucking be a downer with all the shit that's been happening, but you just gotta wonder if they really do have another big event planned before the end of the year. Because remember, America has its Pluto return coming up. It takes Pluto 90,560 days to orbit the Earth. And if you add 90,560 days to Independence Day, you get June 14th of this year. And June 14th, the birthday of Donald Trump, he'll be exactly 4,070 weeks old as he attempts to become the 47th president. The name Trump equals 47 and 470, like president. You know, is Trump going to go back to the White House? 47. But I point this out because a plutocracy is a form of government which is ruled by only the most wealthy. And it really does feel like the upper class is accelerating this push to separate itself from the lower working class, doesn't it? If you want to find more about Pluto, I'm going to be going live hopefully tomorrow. Because, you know, I did this Pluto decode in my last super stream, talking about Dale Earnhardt. Well, Pluto was downgraded from a planet down to a dwarf planet in the year 2006. And 2006 is the same year that we got the film Cars. And the first NASCAR race after I made this video ended with a triple photo finish that was identical to the film Cars. So if you think that this riddle was good with Pluto back then, I urge you to check out my video coming up. Or just check my blog, since I've already done posts on it. It's pretty incredible stuff. But yeah, we're about 45 minutes in. It's good to be back doing videos again. For those of you wondering why I was gone for a couple weeks, first of all, I appreciate the people who reached out and said they missed the videos. You know, I don't get a whole lot of positive feedback with YouTube. As you see, this channel is pretty squashed, especially compared to other Gematria channels, which I always thought was interesting because, you know, I'm the guy who created the calculator, and I'm doing some pretty phenomenal work over here, but my channel's not that popular compared to other Gematria channels, and, you know, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And, of course, this sounds like sour grapes. It's me bitching about YouTube again, which I really have no business doing. But, you know, it's sometimes hard to find motivation to keep saying the same numbers over and over out loud when you're not getting really that much for it in return. So I had been focusing some of my efforts on the website recently. And for members of the website, you'll see a new feature called the Personal Numerology Calendar on here. And not a whole lot of information on this yet. We're going to be punching something up soon. But there's something called personal attitude numbers and whatnot that manifest differently for each date. And so today, for instance, today's a 5-day for me. And I'm sitting in a 3-month in a 9-year. And there's philosophies about how to use something like this. And I plan on learning and teaching more about it in the near future. But, you know, it leads to some cool discoveries. Like for me, September 9th or 9/9 is a triple 9-day for me this year. So it's a 9-month, a 9-year, and the 9 is the 9th day. So, you know, this has to do with creativity, the number 9 and completion. So there's definitely some creative goals I aim to complete by that day. So, again, nothing too groundbreaking at the moment, but this is just part of the larger scope that I want the website to become. So, you know, if I go a week or two without doing videos, don't panic. It's very unlikely the shadow government got to me. You know, no one's chasing me down. That's not happening. So, yeah, a little bit of work on the calendar. And, of course, I have been still posting, you know, a lesser pace. But still some stuff there that you can scope out in light of me not doing videos. So, you know, I don't usually glance at the comments because I have enough material to share, but no, I don't necessarily believe you can use Gematria to tell if you're cursed. We all have, you know, certain negative aspects, so to speak, with the day or astrology that we were born, but we also have positive aspects as well. You know, if you want to talk on a more philosophical base, I do believe that some people are born to struggle more than others, but that's part of a deeper conversation that I don't have much more breath for. So with that, guys, I'm going to wrap this video up. Thanks to everybody who stuck it out to the end. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you soon. See ya.